Minutes to 12, I'm Jonathon Miles. We're going to talk about... there's a couple of strands to this conversation, okay? There's the technical strand, and then there's the historic strand. Do you know about the time that the River Tyne froze for 3 weeks? The runaway bears in Eldon Square? No? Or the flying donkey of the Castle Keep? No? No. A new app, Hidden Newcastle, has been created to unearth Newcastle's weird and wonderful history. And don't worry if you're not technically minded, as Stephen Patterson, Director of Communications at NE1 Limited, and John Coburn, Digital Coordinator at Tyne Archives and Museums, are here to tell us about how it works and share some of the stories. First of all, Stephen, what is NE1 for anybody who doesn't know?
NE1 is the business improvement district company for the city centre. We do lots of things like Live After 5, Restaurant Week, Cocktail Week, and we just want to make the city centre as good a place as it can possibly be for the people that use it.
So are you a front for promoting North East business or Newcastle businesses then?
Newcastle business, very much so, yes.
Okay, and your job is kind of PR?
Yes, in a sense, yeah.
In a sense, okay, leave it there. And John Coburn, your digital coordinator at Tyne Archives and Museums, so the Discovery Museum, and so your job must be to promote digitally the museums, is that right?
The museum collections, yeah. So we have...
It would help if I turned your microphone on, and then digitally things will happen.
Yeah, we have 1.1 million objects in our collections, so my job is to sort of unearth all that stuff and get it out online and through things like apps.
Okay, Stephen first and foremost. No, that's Stephen first and foremost. I give up. I've partially got the norovirus. That's what I'm blaming on. Stephen, tell us about the app which has been created.
Well, it's free to download. Ultimately, for anyone, we just felt there was such a wealth of historic information about the city centre that people didn't know anything about. As you mentioned, the time the Tyne froze over, or indeed when the suffragettes bombed the post office on Barras Bridge. There's so many amazing stories that Newcastle has that just really aren't well known. So the idea was really just to promote that and work with Tyne Museums and Archives on really promoting that information, so when people come into the city centre, they can use the app to sort of really discover what things were like and what happened sort of historically in years gone by.
Okay, and if you're listening to this, you're thinking that sounds interesting. The app is called
Hidden Newcastle, and it's free to download, and it's on the App Store now.
Excellent. In all the app stores?
iOS, Apple App Store at the moment. Android's coming soon.
Okay. I'm interested about how you go about doing this thing in the first place. So you obviously, John comes in at this point, or you've worked together and you've gone, I've got all these stories. You go, ooh, let's promote them. How did you do an app?
Okay, so what we wanted to make the most of was the fact that there's lots of footfall around the city centre, and as Stephen's mentioned, there's lots of really hidden stories that aren't well known and talked about. So we had the brief that we pulled together was, how do we make the most of these, and how do people wandering around our city actually question what they thought they knew about the history of the place? So we brought in a couple of researchers, and the first version of that was a couple of years ago, but this is the kind of big revamp of it. We brought in a couple of researchers. They found lots of really incredible stories from the archives and from our collections, and then we sort of sat down and we decided which are the ones that are going to be most likely to create a real buzz with the people who use it.
And the North East is these days, I believe, quite a digital hub. But, I mean, and Stephen, how do you go about designing an app? Is it a boy in a darkened room going, 01X equals it?
I think it will no doubt end up that way at some point, but I think ultimately for me it starts with the content, the idea of what you want to achieve. Then you work on a brief, as John says, and then you hand it over to a programmer who then works on the program and coding to deliver that user experience.
So when you touch this thing and it opens, who designs what happens next?
We worked with a local company called Ideonic, who actually did the original Hidden Newcastle app. and they very much work to a brief that we worked on together. And as I say, that was very much about the user experience, how people interact with it, how people are going to use it as they walk around the city, because it's got a map function, so you can literally walk around the city and it'll notify you of stories that happened close to you. So it's almost an informal kind of tour guide in that sense.
So you almost have to storyboard something, do you?
Yeah, I think once we had the stories, I think that was very much the start of it, and then it more becomes the challenge of how do we actually promote these stories, get them across to people in the most user-friendly format.
Why is it important for cities to have apps like this?
I think for me, cities have grown organically over such a long period of time, and the history of cities is very much an intrinsic part of that. When, from our point of view, we wanted people coming into the city to get more out of the city, to better understand its past, and that's very much where the app came from for us.
John, when you go and see Stephen here, who's got a very warm handshake, whereas you're cold. John and
It's cold outside.
John and I can't warm up today. Stephen is very hot. So if you know Stephen, by the way, and you're a bit cold, grab hold of him, hug him, shake his hand. Stephen Patterson, you won't want to let him go. So, are the stories about the North East, or you're focusing just on Newcastle City Centre?
That's right. So all this.
Oh, listen to people of Sunderland just rolling their eyes, rolling their eyes. Oh no! Oh yeah.
Yeah, specifically this is all about Newcastle. This
Oh,
one.
is it? Yeah, always is. Yeah.
We have lots of fantastic stories relating to the city of Sunderland, which are on our website and on our
Well,
Flickr
how
screen.
about making an app for it then?
Yeah, let's find some more money and let's do that, shall we?
Sunderland, I'm hugging you. I'm hugging you because I know you feel rejected. So, are your stories endless, or are there a finite? We've got 450.
Yeah. We decided with this version of the app we wanted 50 more. It seems like a bit of an arbitrary figure, but we knew there were lots, but we settled on a figure of 50. When you actually get into the archives, it is actually close to infinite, the numbers of stories that you can find and pull in. So one of the things with the app is that we will be adding content over time, just because there's lots of stories that were considered for inclusion that haven't been added. So they will feature at some point, some real gems.
Okay, and the stories come from people sending them, you sitting in a library researching?
We work with a couple of researchers, and they sat in our archives and with our collections and read through books and asked questions to curators, and just dug out this stuff, which we then sort of sat around as an editorial group and picked out the stuff we thought was the best.
Okay, I want to hear what those gems are. I want to know when and how the Tyne froze. I want to know about flying donkeys. And I also want to know about the bears in Eldon Square, because I was there yesterday and I didn't see any. So we're talking about a new app available for download now for free, which is called
Hidden Newcastle.